Obviously, you came on our radar recently with the work you're doing with Max Blumenthal. Can you touch upon that, where things are currently at, and how this whole thing got started? It seemed like Max was doing this illegal tactic called journalism, and the Trump administration had
he was traveling while doing journalism. You cannot travel and journalism at the same time.
No, he's a really troublesome person. We had to take care of him, and we totally did.
So, guys, if you don't remember, Jenin, can you just give us the brief synopsis of what happened to where you are now, guys? This is from Max traveling to Iran.
Yeah. So he went to Iran to cover the funeral of the Ayatollah, which was, I think, the largest gathering in human history, but who knows? Yes. When he was coming back into Dulles Airport in Virginia, Customs and Border Protection asked him to put in the passcodes to the 2 smartphones he was carrying. He refused, and so they took the phones and said they were going to conduct a forensic search. They said they were going to hook, in the jargon they used, they were going to hook the phones up to devices and see what they could get out of them. But in legal terms, that's a forensic. So obviously that's not, well, I shouldn't say obviously, because it might not be obvious to everybody. But that should not be acceptable under the Fourth Amendment. There are also First Amendment problems because Laura Loomer, the president's best friend, was had been tweeting about Max while he was in Iran, and also after, but while he was there, saying that he was committing treason, he was a spy, he should be dragged off the plane by U.S. Marshals, put in prison, never to see the light of day, blah, blah. Given the fact that it appears the administration has taken marching orders from her on other occasions, it raises the specter of Max having been targeted for his viewpoints. I mean, she obviously hates him for his viewpoints because she's a rabid psychopathic Zionist. I mean, one of the craziest things she did, among many, but I think this one, I mean, in terms of crazy and cruel, I think this wins the prize, was there were a bunch of children from Gaza who were in desperate need of medical care, mostly amputees, who were slated to come over on visas to receive treatment in the U.S. And she campaigned against that, saying no one should, from Gaza, no Gazan in all caps, should be allowed into the country. And immediately after that, Rubio retracted the visas of these children who were then unable to come into the United States to receive the medical care they desperately needed. I mean, I don't know what kind, I don't know how someone I just don't know how you live. I don't know what is going through your brain.
Jenin, I've said it on this show many times. I fear that woman is going to be the source of my first felony. I have concerns for her, actually, because I also think that she's mentally very unwell. Now, I don't know if it's borderline personality disorder or just psychotic narcissism. I don't know, because I'm not qualified to know. But I'm glad that I don't live in the vicinity of running into her. I find her enraging. But I also feel that she's mentally unwell, right? Yeah. Not that that's an excuse, but it's like if you're talking with someone who's demented, you're not going to blame them for being demented, right? So I don't know with her. What freaks me out about it is the amount of people that aren't demented, but seemingly listening to her.
I mean, she has 1.9 million followers on Twitter.
I don't understand.
So,
I don't understand.
Well, no, I mean, it's actually very easy to understand because she is part of the Trump administration. You could call her whatever you want, but the fact of the matter is when you have somebody like Elon that runs the biggest social media platform in terms of usership as it stands in the world today, outside of anything that perhaps China's doing, you have a situation where these accounts are getting pumped up. You know that there are certain accounts that is being driven through the algorithm, kind of like how certain YouTube channels get driven through the algorithm. In her case, all of her stuff gets pumped up. All of it.
Which of course is she's obviously protected. She's obviously whatever it is that her deal is with whoever it is, whether it's Trump or whoever. I don't know. I just don't understand. She's not educated. She graduated from Barry University. I mean, Barry University, no offense, but in all reality, to someone who grew up in South Florida, that's where people go who can't get into the University of Miami. And it's not like it's that hard to get into the University of Miami, right? It's not like an Ivy League school. What is this woman's?
Well, let's not denigrate, people where they get their education from or anything like that.
I think it's interesting. No, you don't get to be advising the president and go to Barry University and not have knowledge of anything.
her social media accounts speak for themselves. Like they're crazy and cruel. And the fact anybody would listen to her is just, but in any event.
I do want to ask you though, as a sidebar real quick, her language is extremely incendiary. It's extremely volatile. Yeah. Is there any legal situation that could be brought against her? I mean, she promotes violence.
Yes.
Actively.
I've taken the opposite position that social media speech should never be considered a First Amendment exception, like incitement to violence specifically, because it's just too easy to contort that. Yeah, and the idea behind
like it's not imminent.
Exactly. It's the sort of philosophy behind the exception is that you're sort of riling people up. They're getting very emotional and they're acting without having the opportunity to reflect. I think the fact that something is occurring online is by nature like not within the exception. I also don't, I like to narrow free speech exceptions because I think they can be too easily used against us. Like they claim from the other side claims that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is a call to genocide Jews. And therefore, people can be kicked out of school for saying it. And many people were kicked out of school and lost their jobs for saying it. So I think we have to be a little bit careful. I mean, of course, you can say that saying kill all those, Muslims is not the same thing. And it's not as saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. But I also think it's in the interests of sort of civil liberties, it's best to keep those exceptions very narrow. And, you can hold people accountable for their rhetoric in other ways. I mean, in a sane society, she would, be screaming at her wall or exactly. Or her cats or her TV or whatever. But we don't live in a sane world right now.
No, I honestly, I am hopeful that I don't ever run into her. And I know that there's other people that feel that way. So who knows? I mean, at some point, I think that people do get what they have coming. I
think so. And look, I mean, I don't think she's a happy person, if it makes anybody feel better. I tell myself that when she's clearly a very miserable person. So
she made me the target of her ire. She decided she wanted to have me lose my job.
Oh, yeah.
She got what she wanted. Okay. I said to Jean when we first started doing this back in, right after October 7th, I said, I'll go with you. I will commit to this. And I did. And I realized that there were consequences that would come with it potentially. And at the time we were small potatoes, but eventually we grew over the last year. And eventually one of her people caught into what we were talking about and decided to make it their mission that I am going to end you, essentially, is kind of what they do. They have these little these pet projects that they take on. They did it last week when Rashida Tlaib came down to South Florida. They're like, we're going to ruin your day. And so as long as she has the backing of the president, she's going to be able to get away with this. But there is going to come a point in the not too distant future where she's not going to have this power anymore. And she is going to pay for it dearly when that happens.
Oh, yeah.
She's not smart enough. She's not rich enough. She's not influential enough to avoid what's going to come for her.
And she sure as shit ain't pretty enough. I mean, I don't want to make it about looks, but if you're going to be a horrible, evil person, it really is going to amplify your not so good features. That's what I think happens. I think when you're evil on the inside, it like corrodes you on the outside.
Well, she also hired like a really bad plastic surgeon. So
well, there's that.
There's that too.
And there's that.
Well, let's bring it home.
I want to know what the current status is
of Max's case. Yeah. So sorry, I'll try to keep it out of the weeds. So in addition to raising First Amendment problems, also Fourth Amendment problems. The Fourth Amendment law when it comes to searches of cell phones at the border or electronic devices at the border is very complicated, and it hasn't actually been settled by the Supreme Court. So when you're crossing coming in or out of the country, you basically have no Fourth Amendment rights when it comes to your luggage. I don't agree with that. I actually don't think that's a good reading of the Fourth Amendment, but that was decided, many, many decades before we were all born. So that battle was lost before we could even fight it. The justification is essentially that the government has unfettered ability to ensure that people don't bring contraband or explosives or that kind of thing into the country. I still think, anyway. I still think there should be some.
Fourth Amendment should not stop at the border. And it's definitely for citizens. Definitely.
Yes, I would actually say that's, That's one of the areas I'll say there's a fair distinction to be made. Like non-resident visitors who like have never been in the country. I mean, people have all sorts of motivations. But for citizens, yes. I mean, I think you could argue for some kind of diminished protections. Maybe you don't need a warrant, like reasonable suspicion or something. But just that they can search your luggage for any or no reason, I think is not consistent with the Fourth Amendment. But set that aside. The justifications for being able to search your luggage don't really apply to cell phones. Because, they can't really contain like large quantities of fentanyl. I mean, they can contain small quantities of fentanyl, I guess, but like not kilos. They probably can't contain explosives, although maybe I shouldn't say that after the pager attack in Lebanon. But, you're not going to be able to like bring a whole bunch of bombs into the country. And certainly they could be searched for explosive devices without having to read the contents of the phone.
Yes.
And there was a Supreme Court case called the United States versus Riley in 2014. That was a very, very good decision where the Supreme Court said you basically all circumstances in the United States, you need a warrant to search someone's cell phone because of the extreme privacy interests in modern smartphones. Like it basically contains all your thoughts, all your communications, and your thoughts in the form of your communications with others, your ChatGPT searches, your whatever, location data. There's just so much in there that's so personal. Now, the courts throughout the country have reached different conclusions about what exactly is needed to search someone's cell phone when they come into the country or out of the country. The Fourth Circuit, where Dulles Airport is, where Max flew into, has settled on, I think, a kind of ridiculous law, but it is the law right now, a reading of the law, which says Customs and Border Protection officers can search your phone manually without any individualized suspicion or warrant. So they can like flip through your phone quickly because they think maybe you look like a pedophile or something, I don't know, and have child porn on your phone. But they can't do a forensic search. So they can't like hook it up to devices and try to recover lost information or get large quantities of data. I don't understand this reading of the Fourth. Like this just doesn't make any sense to me. If they have a reason to believe you've committed a crime, then they can go get a warrant, like they would in any other situation. That's what I think the law should be, not what the law is. But either way, because the officers were very clear that they attempted to do a forensic search of Max's phone, it violated the Fourth Amendment. So in any event, we filed a motion under Rule of Criminal Procedure, little known rule, that you can file to get your stuff back if the government takes it. So we filed it about a month ago requesting all the phones and all of the information that they took from any information they took from them. They had confiscated them and they still had them a week later. So they had said they would return them like the next day. Max never heard. So we filed this motion. We got into court. We filed the motion the next day. They called Max, returned his phones to him, and then argued the case was moot because they had returned the phones and they claimed that they had tried to get data off the phones, but they couldn't. So they didn't have anything. And we said, we don't really
believe that, right? Like we should just believe you. Okay.
And we were like, we don't really believe you. We want to know, we need some evidence. Like we want to be able to depose the people who handled these phones. We want to know exactly what procedures were performed. We want to know if there was any surveillance data. We want to know if there were attempts made to get information from the cloud. They didn't claim that they weren't trying to get information from companies, for example. The fact that they made attempts, I think is disturbing. Like they knew he was a journalist. They were clearly trying to get information out of his phone, possibly about his sources. We're speculating based on an anonymous tip that I don't know how much validity there is to it, but it would sort of be consistent with what happened. So the court we got into court. The judge actually agreed with us and said, this search was very problematic under the Fourth Amendment. And you guys weren't, I don't think this is enough information. You guys should go fight this out and then get back to me if you have a conflict. So we're currently in a discovery fight with them. We're also going to file, I never say that I'm going to file a lawsuit before I file it, but it's being filed right now. So I think it's okay. We're filing a lawsuit requesting a real lawsuit, because this was just an emergency motion requesting declaratory and injunctive relief under the Fourth Amendment's Privacy Protection Act, which applies to journalists, and the Administrative Procedure Act, asking for Customs and Border Patrol's directive, which permits these searches to be enjoined entirely.
Yeah, it's outrageous, but we know that we lost 4, 5, and 6 with the Patriot Act, right? I mean, they've been hanging on by a thread, those amendments, and it's extra for anybody, of course, who's speaking truth to power and people like Max. And it's especially for people that are journalists and lawyers. We had that with, what was oh my God, the attorney's name that we had from Michigan, the guy who represented the Michigan students, University of Michigan students that got, we had him on our show, really nice guy, really great, he First Amendment lawyer. And
from the guy from the Sugar Law Center, is his name John something?
No, he's I want to say, is he Palestinian? Is he, I forget what he's, oh my God. Oh, but the whole point was they did that to him when he came back into the country, when he flew back in, and they wanted his phone, and he has all his client stuff on there. And we're like, well, that's privileged information. So then they wanted him to make a list of what was privileged on his phone. Like he could possibly do that. Like, could you possibly make a list of what's privileged on your phone as a lawyer? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? And so that's the kind of stuff that they're doing. And I think journalists and lawyers are specifically getting targeted because they know that, and this whole idea, and for people who don't understand what we're talking about, like when you come in at the airport, it's considered a border. And you don't have the same rights at borders that you do inside the country, even if you're a citizen. That's what we're talking about. I got to bring it back to basics. But
yeah. I know. I need to like tone down the legalese.
No, it's just people don't know where we're starting from. So like, for example, it's hard to know now because I feel like our Fourth Amendment rights have been so eroded in so many different ways. I mean, you could just be declared an enemy combatant and then you have no rights, right? So, I mean, there's just so many different workarounds now. But essentially, yes, the idea is even before all that, we did have less rights at borders. That's the way it is.